Hi, everybody. This is June 18th, 2024, and I'm just looking up at the most beautiful three-quarter moon. The sun hasn't set yet, but the moon is out and it's very bright and beautiful. So I'm posting these videos as a journal to cope with the trauma of watching my little brother be killed. As you know, my brother's group home, L'Arche, that's L'Arche, which we now know is a cult started by two sexpredators named Jean Vanier, who was a Canadian retired naval officer, and Thomas Philippe, who was a defrocked, excommunicated Catholic priest. They started this cult to provide residential care for the most profoundly disabled adults, and then they prayed really for about 60 years until 2019 when Jean Vanier died. It was discovered that he and Thomas Philippe had been preying on the workers at L'Arche, L'Arche. So my mother, we had Paul at home until he was in his teens. And then my mother cared for him at home on weekends and holidays, and he was in a group home. She moved him out to be near me and my sisters in Greater Vancouver in 1990, and she moved him into a L'Arche, L'Arche group home because in 1993, because L'Arche purported or held itself out to be a branch or affiliated with the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and we're all devout Roman Catholics. And of course, Jean Vanier's criminal conduct did not come to light until 2019, almost 30 years later. So when I objected in 2022, I discovered that L'Arche, L'Arche, had secretly created a power of attorney over my brother, making my 81-year-old Catholic nun sister 4,000 kilometers away in Ontario his guardian. I objected to that, and they ordered her to terminate his visits with me, his twice-weekly visits with me, and she did. And he was isolated and confined to the group home against his will. And I was deprived of his companionship for 588 days, 10 hours, and 15 minutes before he died on April 23rd, 2024 at 10:15. So I'm going back to court tomorrow morning. My sister's lawyers, she's got two full-time law firms, or two law firms working around the clock on this, one in Ottawa and one in Vancouver. The Ottawa lawyer is Charles Gibson, and the Vancouver lawyer is Casey Deanshaw of Singleton Urquhart. And basically, it wasn't enough for them to torture and torment Paul and I while he was alive. Tomorrow, they're bringing on an application to have me declared a vexatious litigant because I fought for since February 1st of 2022 to restore his visits with me. And unfortunately, I was not successful. And he died without me by his side. All I wanted to do really was be by his side in his final hours and at his death to help interpret his wishes for his physicians. I think he was sedated to death. I've made a complaint to the coroner, to the British Columbia coroner, saying that Burnaby General Hospital sedated my brother to death. He was not in pain. but his medical condition was fragile, and they took away his ventilator, his respirator, his catheters, all medical support, and he appeared to me to be sedated. After a period of recovery from what they said was a stroke. They said he had a stroke on April 13th. I'm the only relative he has left nearby. They didn't tell me until April 15th. So L'Arche is a cult, and it has all the worst aspects of a cult. David Eby, if you're watching this, if you ever watch this, which I doubt you do, but you should shut down L'Arche immediately. And don't just not shut it down because I'm asking you to, and because you do your own thing. Look into it. You're supposed to be a proponent of civil liberties. You were the president of the BC Civil Liberties Association for a long time, and my brother's civil liberties were trampled on and virtually destroyed by L'Arche, the cult L'Arche. So anyways, my sister's lawyers are dragging me back into court tomorrow at 9 a.m. for a 4-day hearing on to have me declared a vexatious litigant. And frankly, I can't wait. I've never looked forward to any court hearing so much in my life. I'm quite confident that they will not be successful, because now, my brother's gone and I've got nothing to lose. And, I don't have to pussyfoot with them any longer. Anyways, that's my application for leave to appeal. The decision appointing the evil nun 4,000 kilometers away in Ontario as my brother's guardian is now before the Supreme Court of Canada. And I'm asking them to recommend the adoption of uniform guardian reform from the United States, which is called Peter Falk's Law. I don't know if you remember, Peter Falk was the actor in Columbo, the detective series that I loved. It's really the best detective series ever. I went into labor with my son Aaron while watching an episode of Columbo. But anyways, so he had a stroke. Peter Falk had a stroke in his 70s, and his second wife, his daughter's stepmother, would not let them visit him after he had a stroke when he became incapable. And so, and they were never successful, just like me. When you're in the throes of trying to establish your right to visit with an incapable person, it's very difficult. And what they did was they set up an institute or a foundation to reform adult guardianship laws in the United States. Like, what happened with Britney Spears, how her father took advantage of her, and a lot of people made a lot of money off of her by keeping her by being her conservator. So I'm asking that Canada adopt adult guardianship reform laws, and in particular, specifically, that a guardian is not automatically entitled to isolate and confine the incapable adult from his other loved ones, which is something that you see more often than not. Very frequently, people who put themselves, they have the financial resources to hire lawyers, as my sister did. So she could write off all her legal fees as a charitable tax endeavor because she's part of a religious community, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Sault Ste. Marie. So she put herself in a position, she was more powerful, and she put herself in a position to be able to become my brother's guardian. But unfortunately, then she used that to hurt him and to hurt me. It really was torture. It felt like 588 days of torture when you're concerned about a loved one and you're unable to see them, and you're slandered and defamed and discredited by the person who's got themselves into the position of being the guardian. all I wanted to do was visit with my little brother and make his final days a little bit more interesting and comfortable. And now I have to just throw away all the art supplies and puzzles and toys. Anyway, so I've got a big day tomorrow. I'm all ready. I spent all day yesterday preparing the materials, about 8 hours of work and about $400 in copying. So hopefully I'll get my costs back for that. Paul, I'm looking at the moon right now and I'm thinking of you, dear. I hope you're having fun in heaven. And I hope to change the law so that nobody else ever has to suffer the way that made you suffer, dear. Good night, everybody.